Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications before you start watching because the story you are about to hear is not gossip or exaggeration. It is the real, unfiltered journey of one of the world's most beloved artists. Shania Twain spent decades commanding stages worldwide, singing about confidence, freedom, and love while hiding a silence that few ever understood. Her smile seemed effortless, her energy unstoppable, her voice powerful. But behind the public image was a woman shaped by survival, endurance, and early pain. From childhood, Shania learned that to survive, she had to remain silent, endure hardships alone, and put the needs of others before her own. What she is finally sharing is honesty born from a lifetime of lessons, not for shock value, but for truth. It is a story of poverty, trauma, responsibility, betrayal, and healing, the kind that reshapes everything fans thought they knew about her. This is the story of a girl who became a global superstar, but whose heart carried scars hidden behind songs that seemed confident, fearless, and free. Long before Shania Twain became a household name, she was born Eileen Regina Edwards in Windsor, Ontario, and raised in Timmins, a small mining town known for its harsh winters and limited opportunity. Life was hard, and her family struggled to survive. Hunger was constant, not occasional. Many days she went to school on an empty stomach, unable to focus, feeling shame she could not articulate. Poverty was not just a lack of money. It was isolation, embarrassment, and a lesson that asking for help was often impossible. At home, life was unpredictable. Her stepfather, Jerry Twain, legally adopted her, appearing stable to outsiders but emotionally volatile behind closed doors. Shania learned to be vigilant from a very young age, listening to footsteps, voices, and arguments, never knowing what mood awaited her. Nights were long, filled with anxiety and fear. The concept of childhood safety simply didn't exist. Survival required invisibility, silence, and self-reliance. These lessons would define her resilience, her emotional patterns, and her approach to life and music for decades to come. Childhood for Shania was not just difficult, it was emotionally shaping in ways that would follow her forever. Boundaries were unclear, fear was constant, and the need to remain invisible became instinctive. She learned to hide her feelings, to withdraw, and to imagine a life where she could control her own space and body. This was not ordinary insecurity, it was survival instinct. Yet, even while carrying this invisible weight, she was expected to perform. By the age of 8, she was singing in adult-only bars to contribute financially to the family. These chaotic venues were unsafe for children, yet she learned to smile and entertain as if her own trauma didn't exist. At the same time, her mother suffered from severe depression, sometimes remaining in bed for days, unable to care for the household. Shania took on adult responsibilities early, preparing meals, caring for her siblings, and maintaining a household she could barely navigate herself. Childhood, as most understand it, never happened. Instead, survival became the core of her identity, shaping her future in ways the world would not see for decades. By the age of 10, Shania wrote her first song, not about dreams, love, or adventure, but about sadness. It was for her mother, an attempt to pull her back from despair. Music became a lifeline, a way to process emotions she could not speak aloud. This early connection between music and survival would define her career. The world would later see her as confident and powerful, but that strength was forged in hardship. She learned early that speaking the truth could be dangerous, that silence sometimes protected her family, and that endurance was often more important than self-expression. These experiences created a foundation for everything that followed, every career choice, relationship, and personal challenge. Even as she began to dream of music as a career, childhood trauma had instilled a cautiousness that would later make her decisions complex, nuanced, and sometimes painful. Survival had taught her that life was unpredictable, and trust needed to be earned. Tragedy struck again when Shania was in her early 20s. She received the phone call every child dreads. Her mother and stepfather had died instantly in a head-on collision with a logging truck near Timmins. Grief was immediate and overwhelming, but there was no time to collapse. Overnight, she became responsible for her 3 younger siblings. Dreams, music, and ambition were put on hold. Survival returned as her primary focus. She moved back home, took whatever work she could find, and used music not as passion but as necessity. Performing at a resort in Ontario, singing nightly in revue-style shows became her lifeline. She juggled raising children, earning income, and keeping the household functioning. There was no room to process trauma or loss. Every day required endurance. This period of her life rarely makes headlines, yet it was crucial to her resilience. She learned the meaning of responsibility, discipline, and quiet strength, lessons she would carry with her into every aspect of her future, from career to personal relationships. Eventually, Shania's siblings grew old enough to manage their own lives, and she returned to Nashville with little more than determination and a voice honed by survival. The industry was harsh. Rejections, financial struggle, and skepticism awaited her. She cleaned houses to pay for lessons, navigating an environment that demanded conformity she refused to accept. But she was different now. Having lost everything once, survival had taught her resilience and clarity. She met producer Robert Mutt Lange, a man whose discipline, reputation, and experience represented stability she had never known. Their bond grew fast, personal and professional lives intertwining quickly. Together, they created music that transformed country and pop, breaking barriers and selling millions of records worldwide. Shania became a global phenomenon. To the public, it appeared as a perfect partnership, with Lange bringing precision and Shania bringing charisma and vulnerability. Their songs spoke of love, independence, and confidence, capturing audiences while masking deeper emotional currents behind the scenes. Despite outward perfection, cracks began forming in private. Shania later admitted that after a childhood of chaos, structure and control felt safe, even when it came at the cost of her autonomy. The marriage, while seemingly ideal, carried unspoken tensions. Touring schedules were punishing, studio demands relentless, and emotional distance crept in. At the same time, her body began to betray her. Subtle changes in her voice appeared, weakness, strain, and lost notes, signals of a deeper problem. Doctors could not explain what was happening. Yet she continued to push forward. Her instinct to endure and persevere had been ingrained since childhood, and she relied on it even when her very identity as a singer was at stake. Beneath this endurance, however, lay the slow unraveling of personal trust, the quiet accumulation of emotional damage, and the first hints of the betrayal that would redefine her life. The betrayal came in the form of an affair between her husband and her closest friend, someone Shania considered family. The denial, silence, and unanswered questions wounded her more than the affair itself. When the marriage ended, it wasn't just a personal loss. It was a collapse of the partnership that had shaped an era of music. Retreating from the public eye, Shania vanished from headlines, and the world assumed she had taken a break from her career. But behind closed doors, her voice began to fail completely. Diagnosed later with Lyme disease and dysphonia, she confronted the terrifying reality that she might never sing again. Her identity, tied so closely to music, felt lost. 15 years passed without a studio album, without performing as she battled grief, trauma, and the physical loss of the voice that had once defined her life. During these years, Shania's mental health declined. The betrayal and isolation reopened childhood wounds, making the weight of survival unbearable. At her lowest, she stood on a balcony in Switzerland contemplating ending her life. What kept her alive was her son, whose presence grounded her when nothing else could. Healing came slowly. Music returned gradually, not through inspiration, but through honest confrontation of her past. Writing her memoir forced her to face memories she had long avoided: hunger, abuse, loss, betrayal, and decades of silence. She admitted publicly that success did not shield her from despair. This period of reflection, honesty, and self-confrontation became the foundation for her true comeback, one built not on fame but on survival, acceptance, and self-respect. Eventually, medical intervention provided hope. Doctors offered vocal surgery that required her to be awake and singing during the procedure. The surgery was risky and terrifying, leaving a visible scar she no longer hides. Recovery was painstaking. She had to relearn how to sing, retrain her muscles, and trust her voice again. The voice that returned was not identical to the one she lost, but it was hers. More importantly, she had to relearn how to trust herself. Control, once her safety net, had to be surrendered. This surrender, painful as it was, confirmed an essential truth. Healing requires honesty, vulnerability, and acceptance. Shania's journey to reclaim her voice became inseparable from reclaiming her identity, rebuilding her sense of worth, and speaking truths she had hidden for decades. In her later career, Shania Twain no longer hides her scars, emotional or physical. Her music reflects acceptance, growth, and freedom from fear. Songs explore aging, autonomy, and personal strength, rather than fantasy or the illusions of perfection. She no longer flattens herself to feel safe or protect appearances. The confidence audiences once interpreted as performance is now grounded, quieter, and deeply authentic. She embodies resilience and the strength to speak her truth. Her legacy, while still measured in awards and record sales, is now equally defined by honesty, survival, and courage. The girl who once hated being seen now stands fully in her own skin, unashamed, unapologetic, and authentic. Shania's story highlights the cost of silence. For decades, she believed endurance and invisibility would keep her safe. But surviving alone does not heal trauma. It postpones it. Only through honesty, speaking truths about abuse, betrayal, and loss, was she able to begin authentic healing. This lesson transcends celebrity culture. It is a story about human survival, resilience, and the courage to confront pain. By sharing her experiences, Shania reframes what it means to be a survivor, showing the public that strength is not always visible, that endurance does not equal peace, and that success does not erase trauma. Her journey demonstrates that recovery is a process, often slow, painful, and filled with uncertainty, but ultimately transformative. Shania Twain's life is a blueprint for resilience. Each stage of her story, from a poverty-stricken childhood to international superstardom, betrayal, voice loss, and ultimate recovery, reveals the power of survival instincts shaped over a lifetime. She endured unimaginable hardships, yet each experience contributed to the clarity, discipline, and resolve that allowed her to reclaim her voice and identity. By facing the truths she once buried, Shania demonstrates the importance of confronting pain rather than suppressing it. Her choice to speak publicly about her past ensures that the narrative of her life is not rewritten by outsiders. Instead, it is told authentically, through her perspective, her words, and her music. Today, Shania Twain continues to perform, create, and inspire a new generation of artists and fans. She no longer performs to maintain an image or meet expectations. She performs because she can, because she survived, and because she reclaimed her story. Her songs now carry deeper meaning, informed by decades of personal growth and healing. Audiences hear not just a voice, but resilience, honesty, and authenticity. The woman on stage is no longer simply the confident superstar. They are also a survivor, a mother, a woman who faced betrayal and physical loss, and someone who transformed silence into strength. Shania's return is a testament to courage, self-respect, and the power of choosing peace over fear. Shania Twain's story is a reminder that honesty often comes after everything has been lost, after survival is tested, and after trauma forces reflection. It is a story about the cost of silence, the weight of responsibility, and the freedom of truth. Her life teaches us that resilience is not measured by fame, wealth, or applause, but by the willingness to face pain, reclaim agency, and embrace authenticity. She returned to the stage not to prove anything to the world, but because she finally could, whole, honest, and unafraid. Her legacy is a combination of music, courage, and survival, offering a profound message. Even in the deepest darkness, life, voice, and truth can be reclaimed.